Okay, we are live, but we got to let it breathe just for a moment here while we bring on Facebook and verify that we're good to go on Instagram. Looks like that's good. Stoked. And welcome in, everybody. It is the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen, and with me once again is Mr. Producer Extraordinaire. You know him, you love him, Scott Kennedy. Scott, I feel kind of bad because, of course, Zach was sick Thursday night, missed that show, and I just kind of went about my business, scheduling the stream and everything. Zach, Chad, and Zach, blah 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 blah. And then after I scheduled the stream, he reaches out. He's like, "Yo, I already talked to Scott. Scott's going to do the stream tonight. I'm still really under the weather." So I felt bad that I had kind of I didn't even think, oh, he might still be sick. But thanks for answering the bell once again, bro.
Yeah, I felt a little bad too. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot he was sick. Well, sorry you start feeling crappy. But yeah, strep throat can do that to you for a few days, especially when you're trying to do this.
Yeah.
And speaking, it's no fun at all with a sore throat. So feel better, Zach. Happy to bring the lefty in from the bullpen.
Once again. Now let me ask you something, Scott, as a family man. If one of the kids brings home a bug, from school or something, they got a cold or whatever, is everybody in the house getting it? And then are you getting it? How many times out of 10 are you also getting that?
I'm down. It was funny. If you've ever, Nick will go through this. I was never sick from the flu or anything until I had kids. Like the last time was like 7th grade. And then the first year I've got a child in the house. So, but yeah, I don't know. I think we should figure out a way to clone the blood and the immune system of elementary school teachers because they are amazing. So
Yeah.
how they're not sick all the time, but it's gotten better for me now that I've got a couple years into it now.
Yeah, I've been just real quick, and then we'll get into things, people. But I've been on this kick. Now we're not sponsored by On It. On It is Joe Rogan's supplements brand or whatever. But he offers. I once watched this thing talking about how much vitamin D. We always think about vitamin C relative to like health and or immunity and stuff like that. Uh, I read or watched a thing about how important vitamin D is, but if you take too much of it, it cannot be good. So you got to offset it with vitamin K, blah, blah, blah. And I found a spray from On It that Joe Rogan sells that is vitamin D with a little bit of vitamin K. And dude, ever since I started, because I was like you, dude, like, I'd get it. The kids would bring it home. We'd all get it type thing, like when we all got COVID, for example. But since I've been using that spray every day for like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, out of 10 times, maybe twice, I'll pick up something that the kids bring home. Usually once, maybe twice a year, I actually get sick with something. Knock on wood.
Yeah, I used to get it with the weather change every year in Georgia. I'd get a bronchial infection. So all good now. But yes, anyway, how's everybody else doing this evening now that we've
listen, Scott,
hitting on this? It is Memorial Day weekend.
Exactly.
It is a little slow. You get to know your football priest/deacon a little bit.
That's right. And I'm sorry
I'd like
to break
to
it
know why I'm freaking fuzzy today. That's what I want to get to know.
Yeah, it won't quite clarify. So I'll do some talking. You can fiddle with it. I'll do some talking. So not a lot of news, obviously, since Thursday in terms of breaking news, but there's some things to talk about tonight. As it is, the Sunday night Memorial Day weekend still rolling. We'll probably keep tonight relatively short. But first things first, before I get to the main topic, which is once again the Broncos quarterback room not getting some love from the national perspective. I just wanted to grab this from David, who's just a stud and a huge member of our community, throwing down every single night. Appreciate you, brother. Always setting the tone early, saying good evening, Broncos country. Chad, Zach, and Deacon Scott. Remember the fallen. Knicks for 6. Bo knows. 12 and 5. MHH for life. I love it, dude. Your hashtag game is just growing. It's getting stronger. But yes, remember the fallen indeed. And that's a big part. Obviously, that's what this weekend is about. And also, Scott, commemorating those that you may have lost in your family. So it's a good weekend to celebrate and spend time with family. And also sometimes, Scott, can be a little bit hard for some folks.
Yeah, I'm proud that both of my grandparents, granddads, were both in World War II. One was on the Pacific side in the Navy, and one was on the beach side in France in the Army.
Wow.
And I'm very thankful that we haven't had to do anything like that really since then. There's some Vietnam stuff that boomer generation, the baby boomers got into, but happy that because of them, we haven't had to do something like that as Gen Xers in our generation and stuff. So thank you to all of y'all are out there who do that on your own because you want to and don't have to. So thank you very much. So not everybody has to.
Yes, indeed. Much love and respect to the veterans. All right, Scott, let's get to some Broncos talk here. I'm just going to go ahead and read this from, Trevor Sikkema of Pro Football Focus. This is aggregated, written by Keith. Whoops, no, don't. All of a sudden, it wants to the site, the main site wants to just autoplay these ads, which is driving me nuts. So maybe, how can I do this? Hold on one second. Let me do this the right way, and I'm gonna have to mute this as soon as it loads. Sorry, guys. Kind of a weird, janky start to tonight's stream, but trust, it's gonna get better. All right, Scott. Here's what he said. Okay, Trevor Sikkema from Keith Cummings' article today, going through ranking each. The 32 teams of the NFL, the quarterback rooms, broke it down into tiers. The Broncos were in the last tier and ranked dead last. Here's what he said, quote, I want your thoughts on this. Nix, after being selected number 12 overall, will be the Broncos starter at some point, but that point might not be immediate. Stidham just hasn't been good to this point in his NFL career. He has one season where he earned a passing grade above 56. That's a PFF passing grade. And his NFL resume includes just 2 big-time throws, another metric they quantify, and efficiency at and 8 turnover-worthy plays. So just 2 big-time throws and 8 turnover-worthy plays. Nix's experience and efficiency at Oregon, though, could help him break through quickly, though his adjustment from the Ducks offense to NFL situations could be a challenge, close quote. Nothing in there, oddly enough, Scott, would lead me to believe, like, if I didn't know that came under a ranking that said Denver Broncos, number 32, there's nothing really in there that per se, like, explains why they should be categorized as the worst quarterback room in the situation or in the league. But what's your thoughts on this?
Well, that's what we're here for, right? To help try and explain it. But it's you're thinking, all right, if you're comparing everybody as you're going down on the list. When I look at rankings, I want to know, okay, well, compared to what? So you look at this, and right above them, in 31 in that next tier is Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy. Okay, so when you've got Jarrett Stidham, who what he does he have 5 starts in his career? Did we say 4 or 5 starts? And he hasn't set the world on fire.
Yeah,
and then you've got an unproven rookie who was the 6th quarterback taken in the draft. Okay. So taking off my orange and blue Broncos glasses and just looking at that fact, yes, that does look poor. The good news is you didn't draft Bo Nix for week 1, and that's the whole idea behind taking a quarterback in when you're doing these rankings is where is the room right now, right this second. And right now, right this second, there's not a lot of quarterbacks that you would take in a week 1 in a Super Bowl game. You wouldn't be knocking on the door of the Denver Broncos for trying to get their quarterback. But that's okay. That's not why you drafted a rookie. You drafted a rookie for the next 10 years, not the first 10 games of the 2024 season. So when I look at this and people's, there's some people in here that are in the comments, they're like, well, we never get respected, blah, blah, blah. Well, you haven't earned the respect for one thing. There's been 6 or 7 straight losing seasons, and 2, the quarterbacks on the roster haven't earned any respect either. They haven't played. If this is probably the most inexperienced quarterback room in the NFL, with Zach Wilson as your number 1 and as far as most experienced quarterbacks, and that experience hasn't been good.
Yeah. It's true. And I like the way you bring that up as far as context. It's like, all right, well, in comparison to who, you look at the top picks, the top quarterbacks in this class, though, all of which, drafted right before Bo Nix. The exception is they have Caleb Williams here at 19, and he admits to Sikkema, he's opening himself up potentially to some criticism for ranking the Bears that high. All right. But then you get down to brass tacks. Last year, top pick, Bryce Young and the Panthers, 25. Then it's got Drake May and Jacoby Brissett of the Patriots, 26. Jaden Daniels and the Commanders at 27. Then you got, Tennessee and Will Levis. You got Daniel Jones and the Giants, Minshew, O'Connell, Raiders, and as you mentioned, Darnold, McCarthy at 31, and then you get to Stidham, Bo Nix. So I guess if nothing else, Scott, what this is saying is that that's kind of how Sycamore views Bo Nix of the first round quarterbacks with, starter probabilities relative to their 2024 outlook. He ranks Bo Nix behind all the other quarterbacks, and especially it ends up being the Broncos being 32 because you compare Stidham. I mean, just like answer off the top of your head, would you rather have Jarrett Stidham on game day right now or Sam Darnold?
Neither's good. That's why they're 31 and 32. I look more, I went up one, scrolled up to 30. And if I'm looking at those 6 quarterbacks, who would if I had to win a game tomorrow, which one would I want as my quarterback tomorrow in the NFL? I'd probably go with Gardner Minshew. Would be he filled in very well last year, played about 11 or 12 games starts because Anthony Richard got hurt and had the Colts this far from the playoffs. I'd probably go Gardner Minshew. So when you're looking at that from a national analyst point of view, you're like, okay, which veteran would I rather have? And then, then I'm just kind of going in order of where they were drafted to a certain extent.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I would agree with you though. Of those 6 quarterbacks, if you had to win, like, hey, if we don't win this football game tomorrow, we're all gonna die. Of that group, I'd probably throw in, I don't know, it'd be Minshew, maybe McCarthy, mayy Bo Nix.
I wouldn't take a rookie for that. That's the hope in you. That's the unknown that's thinking what could they do? You're not taking a rookie in week 1.
Not if my life is on the line. You're right. I'm probably not taking, that's an extreme metaphor that I'm talking about here. I'm not going with a rookie, but I do, for the most part, I'm inclined in almost every situation to err on the side of to err on upside rather than like downside risk. Gardner Minshew is a hedge, right? And I agree with you. He would give you the best chance to win today of those 6 guys. But some of these other guys, you might not just win. You might like blow them out. They got some upside. You don't know. But then there's the downside. That's part of these complex decisions, I guess, Scott, that NFL head coaches, front offices got to make.
Yeah, so that's what it boils down to is where does it rank? Ranking is right now, not necessarily where do we think it's going to be? Where is it headed? What's the direction of the team? The direction of the team is this is the worst the Denver Broncos quarterback room should be for the next decade. Today, right now. That's as bad as it should be for the next decade. That's what you're thinking when you draft a rookie quarterback. He gets better every single day for the next 10 years. So this is the floor. This is it. Today. He gets better every practice, every rep, every game, every snap, every throw from here on out. And that's what you're banking on when you take a rookie.
A quick message to the Instagram people. We're not going to see your comments in the stream control room where Scott and I are, but I'll pop over here to Instagram. If you guys have questions, we'll try to take at least one or topic you want to get to, anything like that. We'll try and get at least one Instagram in tonight if you have one. But let's grab Phil because he's been waiting. He's a patient boy. He's barbecuing. He's flipping some burgers. He's turning over some ribs. Love you, Phil. Appreciate you, big dog. He says, barbecue going. Just wanted to wish everyone a happy and safe Memorial Day weekend. Buckham MHH for life. Yes, sir. You are the man. And sounds good right now. I'm starting to get hungry hearing about that. Gary, the GLP jumping in too. Thank you. Really, really appreciate you, especially on kind of a quiet holiday Sunday night type situation. Thank you, Gary. Says, hey, Chad, Scott, and Broncos country. I pay no attention to PFF rankings. Go Broncos. Yes, indeed. And hey, Scott, if it weren't for the fact that we're sitting here at the bottom of May and nothing's happening, we're not probably talking about these rankings. We're definitely not titling an entire episode around it. But that's where we are right now. And, we got a few more OTAs to go. We got a mandatory minicamp coming up in June. Then we get, Scott, to the 6-week NFL desert, then training camp. That's when things really kick off.
I do like PFF. I was in charge of a national group ranking high school football prospects. We ranked about 2,000 kids. Okay. And not every ranking is the same, meaning I had regional managers. I had 5 regions. I had 5 regional managers. Not every single one of them ranked players the exact same way. So I like PFF as a reference point, trust but verify kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I can tell when different people are doing different teams based on how well they are doing. I can tell that it's not the same person doing every single game, every single team. What I'll do is, I'll watch a game, and if, this might sound arrogant, but I've done this a long time too. If I see this guy had a good game, all right, he graded high. Okay. This guy stunk. Hey, there he is down at the bottom. Okay. I can watch these rankings. I can get an idea. If I don't watch every single player, how did so-and-so look? I didn't watch him. I can reference PFF and get a baseline. Oh, he was good, or oh, he was bad. And then I can check more. So it's a nice pro football reference. I mean, I know there is another reference out there that I'm on constantly for stats, but I like PFF. It's just, they're not a holy Bible. They're a guide. They're something to use to look at and kind of say, okay, what do I want to see more of? Can I trust this ranking or not based on what I have seen myself? So I like PFF. I'm just not going to get all hot and bothered about, what they about the grades. It's just, it's a entertainment reference point. It's a starting point for me.
Steve Hale jumping in. Thank you, buddy. Really, really appreciate the generous super. And you've been with us a long time, but it's, only a couple times I can remember in the last month or so. So I'm stoked to see you back, bro. It's really cool. He says, Semper Fi, Broncos country. Starting in on the injury bug already. Drew Sanders out this year. Tim Patrick last year. Greg Dulcich continuously. Does our strength and conditioning need to be looked at? What do we need to get everyone to week 1? You're almost, I try to stray Scott away from absolutes, but you're almost never, so I did qualify my absolute there, almost never going to get to week 1 completely unscathed, especially once you start popping and hitting, in training camp. But it's not always, guys, I'll remind you of something. It's not always a harbinger of terrible, brutal things to come, because if you think back to, for example, 2015, everybody is kind of still bummed out because the Broncos once again go into the playoffs. They were either the 1 or the 2 seed 2014, and they choke. This time, after a bye, they let Andrew Luck and the Colts come in and beat them in Denver. Then you get to that draft. They take Jeff Hireman, the tight end out of Ohio State, I want to say 3rd round. Okay, cool. Then he tears his ACL in rookie minicamp, lost for the season. Broncos went on to win the Super Bowl. It's not emblematic of what the future holds. The Broncos' strength and conditioning staff is significantly better than it was the preceding 4 years. All due respect to the previous regime in that aspect, Scott. But it doesn't mean you're going to be completely impervious to the injury bug. It is football. And if you're going to lose a guy, Scott, early in the let's say an off-season training program, I'd rather it be a fringe rotating backup caliber guy. No one's hinging their hopes on the Broncos defense on Drew Sanders in 2024. Nobody was. And I don't say that to make light of him. I still have a lot of excitement about Drew Sanders. If they approach his development right, he could be a thing. But come on now, it's just Drew Sanders, one guy, etc.
Yeah, and Steve, for me, the question on this is, does our strength and conditioning need looked at? Yes, it was. It was completely overhauled. And in the last 12 months, the Broncos went from like 4 consecutive years of being the team with the most games missed due to injuries to the least in number 1. They went from bottom to top. We were talking about being the 32 ranked room. Well, you were the 32 ranked MASH unit for several years in a row and went up to number 1. So
over one season.
Yeah. So some of that is, that's, I would say that's not sustainable, but something's wrong if you're last every year too, Chad.
Yeah. And that's how it was. Unfortunately, like it was a pattern. And that's why, Steve, you're feeling the way that you are. We're all still a little bit traumatized by how brutal the injury bug, the Broncos were a snake bitten team, especially that last year before Sean Payton arrived. But as Scott just mentioned, you go from being the worst in terms of games, starters, games lost, etc., to the best in 1 year. And what happened? You got the right head coach in who had 15 years or whatever it was experience as a head coach. A lot of luck, a lot of success in keeping his guys healthy. That's one of the reasons why New Orleans was always competitive. Brings in Dan Dalrymple as your strength and conditioning guy, and then goes above and beyond and brings back another one of his former lieutenants and Bo Lowry, coaxes him out of the SEC, says, hey, we're going to give you a VP executive role. You're going to like quarterback this whole thing, give Dan Dalrymple his marching orders, everything from nutrition, sports science, rehabilitation, strength, conditioning, all that stuff. And it came out in the wash immediately. So I wouldn't get too tripped out over Drew Sanders at this stage, as big of a bummer as it is.
Yeah, and it's like non-contact shorts and t-shirts. When someone gets hurt, watch Ronald Acuna go down again today, just changing directions. It's gonna happen. There's going to be. Remember the Super Bowl the last competitive NFL game we watched, guy blew an Achilles just going out onto the field. It's just there's a lot of massively strong athletes changing directions, and things are going to happen. But last year things improved drastically, Chad.
Yes, indeed. Lawrence, though, he's not seeing so much improvement coming the Broncos' way in the standings. Thank you for the stars, big dog. Hope you're having a great holiday weekend. He says, it's like my fly fishing career. It's not happening this year. And it probably isn't. I mean, when you're starting a rookie quarterback, odds are, and I want to talk, if we get time here tonight, we probably will, but I want to spend some time talking about Sean Payton's philosophy on starting rookie quarterbacks and whether, Scott, you think, and everybody else too in the chat, those conditions are met currently with the Broncos, but they're probably not going to go into the playoffs this year. But they could still upset that apple cart. I mean, nobody expected Houston to be a thing last year, and they pushed down the stretch. And so, just be careful getting too myopic about it's just not happening for us. Remain open to some possibilities, or else you suck all the joy out of life, Lawrence.
Yeah. Lawrence has always got a smile on his face. And Lawrence, thank you so much for being part of our community. Also, thank you to Sam Bam coming in. He says, evening, Chad and Scott. Hope all is well. Back at you, Sam. Go Broncos.
Yeah, buddy. Great to see you. It was fun chatting with you the other night, dropping bombs, dropping knowledge. It was awesome, dude. Hope you're doing well, enjoying your weekend. Scott, I want to get your thoughts on this. And again, guys, we're probably going to keep tonight's stream pretty short. So any burning topics, questions, supers, get them in the chat now, because we probably won't stay on too long tonight, because of the holiday weekend and whatnot. But Scott, I just want your thoughts on what Sean Payton said about his rookie quarterback philosophy, which is this quote: I think some of it, whether or not you start a rookie, okay, I think some of it is a byproduct of what you have in the building. If you have a starter in the building, then that's the path you go. Then sometimes you don't have that luxury, and that's then the path that you go. A lot of it is dependent on the quarterback and his mental makeup. So I think it just varies. When you look at Jordan Love, who went to Green Bay behind Aaron Rodgers, and then Rodgers, who went to Green Bay behind Brett Favre, there's a little bit of a luxury there, but it's really dependent on the roster. Close quote. What do you make of that, Scott?
If I had an established starter, then no, I wouldn't start a rookie over him. Well, duh. If I don't have one, I'm all for starting my rookie quarterback.
Exactly. And not just a rookie, right?
I don't have a starter. I want to start the rookie that I drafted high, not just any rookie.
Right.
But my first round draft pick, yeah. And if, and what I always say is, like, as long as you're not going to shell shock him, if there's a place where you go in and he's seeing shadows, and chasing ghosts, then that would be too soon. But this whole idea of, you got to sit him for 3 years. Look at Jordan Love. It's nonsense. That's it. To me, it's just absolute nonsense. You had a 13-3 team and an MVP, two-time MVP to beat. That's why Jordan Love didn't play. People are like, and yes, would you be better your first year as starting if you didn't start your first year in the league? Probably. Okay. But would Bo Nix be better in 2027 if he played 2024, 2025, and 2026? Or would he be better if he sat these 3 years and his first year was 2027? He'd be better if he had 3 years of experience. I mean, that's that whole argument just drives me batty. Oh, we got to sit him for 3 years. Why?
Yeah.
Why? If he gives you a chance, you're not going to stunt his development. Play him. Play him.
Yep. Love sat for 2 years. I think Rodgers sat for 3, if memory serves.
Love sat for 3.
Well, I'm looking at his PFR right now, 21, 22, and then 23 is a starter. I don't know. Either way,
because he redid his contract. He was drafted in 2020 though, so he didn't.
Was he?
Yeah, he didn't play at all. That's why you see it that way. He didn't take a snap in 2020.
You're right.
He sat for 3 years. So you mean to tell me that Jordan Love is only good because he sat for 3 years and not because he's good? And if he had played these last 4 years, he would have been worse off? That's insane. That's absolutely insane. Well, hell, why not sit him for 10 then?
Yeah.
You know, and then year 11, man, he should be freaking awesome.
Yeah, he should be.
That's insane.
Year 11, he'll have osteoporosis.
Oh, God, think how good. Like a fine wine, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, Jordan Love is a good example, not of necessarily, he's another one of the poster children for those who say it's good for a quarterback to sit. That's not what I'm saying, but he is a good example of how the stars kind of need to align in order for a quarterback to kind of flip the switch. Because if you guys remember MHH meet and greet this last season, nobody was terrified. Nobody was looking at Jordan Love like, oh my goodness, the Broncos handled the Packers quite well in that game. He had a couple of moments, but Broncos just kind of handled him. And it was in the next couple of weeks, all of a sudden, a switch flipped for him. Combination of
the more you play.
Well, sure. That's obviously a big part of it. That's exactly what I'm saying. That's obviously a big part of it. You also have, great coaching as far as offensive minded stuff there with his head coach and LaFleur, pieces around him. But the time on task is what allows a quarterback to capitalize on those things happening around him so that the switch. So in other words, Scott, if you want to increase the probability of the switch flipping then you play him. If you want to increase the odds of it happening sooner than later, then you play him. That's really what it is. And the teams that don't, like Sean Payton said, if his machinations would have come to fruition, Scott, in 2017, and he ended up drafting to New Orleans, Patrick Mahomes, you would have seen his philosophy come out in the wash. It would have been Drew Brees. Mahomes probably would have sat till you got close to the expiration of his rookie deal, then they would have maybe created a situation to see what's what. But you had a future Hall of Famer there that wasn't about to go away in 2017. Didn't work out that way. But what's interesting about that, Scott, last thing that I'm serving it back to you is, where did Mahomes go? He got drafted by the Chiefs, who had a proven guy, not a future Hall of Famer, but Alex Smith, 3-time Pro Bowler, led 2 teams at that point, 2 different franchises to the playoffs. He was their guy, and Mahomes, it's not like he was completely blowing doors down as a rookie. He didn't suddenly come out of nowhere like even Russ did his rookie year with Matt Flynn and start out of the gates. He sat behind Alex Smith for a year, and then when they couldn't get over the hump again in January, they traded him and said, all right, let's get this young guy out on the field, and that's what happened. But Andy Reid took that path because, Scott, he had a proven starter. So when you hear Sean Payton say, well, it depends on whether or not you have a starter. Hey, Jarrett Stidham has started games. So is Zach Wilson. Add proven there, and then you actually get what he's trying to say.
No, the idea behind it, and I haven't looked at the chat, and people will put in, well, so-and-so sat, I'm sure. The idea behind having a guy sit for a couple of years is so you can level's not the right word here, but mitigate the drop-off you get at the quarterback position play. So as the Denver Broncos quarterback play, as the Green Bay Packers play, I'm going from Aaron Rodgers. If I traded away Aaron Rodgers and started Jordan Love as a rookie, the drop-off would have been off the cliff.
Yep.
So yes, Jordan Love, while he's in the league, can get better, incrementally better, taking reps in the league. And in 2024, he's up higher, so the drop-off from Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love isn't quite as steep. That's when you talk about why you want to sit a guy. Now, if I have Aaron Rodgers, if I don't have Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love's playing, that drop-off is steep. But if he can play, and that's always the key, can they play or not? People act like, okay, well, we just need to develop a guy. Well, most guys don't develop because they're not good enough. If he can play, that learning curve, that experience curve, that talent curve is steeper. He's better in 2024 than he would be if he hadn't played at all. Yes, but the drop-off wasn't as steep because he's been incrementally coming up. Where are you as a quarterback room with the Denver Broncos? You don't have Aaron Rodgers. You don't even have Alex Smith. Frankly, you don't have Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
You know, as much hate as he's gotten, he put up adequate numbers last year. Your best option is also your 24-year-old rookie quarterback who is as experienced coming out of college as anybody in the history of this game. Play the man. Play the man. It's not going to do him any good to sit a year. That's silly for me.
Plus, if you're the Broncos, you just don't draft a 24-year-old, without a proven starter. You don't draft a 24-year-old Bo Nix who just happens to be the most experienced quarterback to ever enter the NFL draft to sit him for a year, 8 years into having not done jack squat as a franchise. So there's that too. All right. Last thing here, guys, that we're going to dip out of here. Dean, thank you for the question. Appreciate you, my friend. And this is a topic, Scott, that I wanted to, when I saw it from Dean, I wanted to grab it because Eric Trickle had an interesting article today on the Tim Patrick subject and, kind of looking at, hey, just because he took a pay cut doesn't mean his spot on this roster is guaranteed. More on that here in a minute. Dean says, hey guys, wasn't Tim Patrick considered a wideout number one, even ahead of Courtland Sutton at the time? And could he push to be the number one guy if he stays healthy? No, never. No, Tim Patrick was never considered second fiddle to Courtland Sutton. I would tell you, Dean, if you go to milehighhuddle.com, read the article Eric Trickle published today, gives you really, because even myself reading it, it was a good trip down memory lane where I kind of remembered some of the context. When a guy's absent from the story, Scott, for 2 straight years, and yet he's still on the roster, naturally we kind of forget a little bit what some of his backstory. But he basically brought 2 slightly above average, for our production is concerned, seasons to the table for the Broncos. And on the second one, they paid him thinking he's an ascending player. Let's get him now while the getting's good. And so they paid him, right? And then he hasn't played it down for him yet on the new contract because of the ACL and then Achilles. But if he stays healthy, I don't really think there's going to be a problem with him making the roster. He's just a force to be reckoned with. They need leaders. You lost Josie Jewell. You lost Justin Simmons. You lost Russ. Those are 3 leaders. And Tim Patrick is also a leader on top of his reliability, hands-wise, and what he brings to the table as a possession receiver.
Yeah, Sutton's always ahead of him on the depth chart. I think Tim Patrick's career high in yardage is 742. Courtland, even with the quarterback problems, has beaten that 4 times and just missed it by 40 yards on the 5th, and the other season he got hurt. Yep. So Sutton is the legit one. And I think, again, this is where the bias and stuff creeps in. I think because there's a chance that Courtland Sutton is gone, people are downplaying Courtland Sutton. Courtland Sutton's freaking good. Y'all, he's good. He makes acrobatic catches, and I'd like to see him out there with a more efficient quarterback.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see with Courtland Sutton's a number 1 wide receiver. Is he a Justin Jefferson? No. But he's a problem for defenses. And the fact that he was putting up pretty good numbers in a low volume passing attack, Courtland Sutton can play. Tim Patrick is a good complement.
Yes.
If he's out there.
That's a good way to kind of give perspective to Sutton's production last year, because a lot of fans go, if he doesn't get 1,000 yards, it's nothing but a thing. No. Double-digit touchdowns and north of 700 yards in a low-volume passing offense, meaning there weren't many opportunities to go around. But when they did come around, you boy, capitalized. Lawrence, last thing here, then we're out of here. He says, I feel we sit quarterbacks so that they can ease into the system. If they get played out early, our fan base won't stand mediocre play for long. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, I think if they are mentally, you're never ready. It's like being a dad. Are you ready to be a parent? You're never ready to be a parent. You just got to kind of do it. There's things you can do to help prepare. But again, if the guy, if Pat Nix, it's his dad. Good Lord. Sorry, y'all. Bo Nix. I went to college with Pat Nix. Bo Nix.
That's true, by the way. Scott went to college with.
Yeah, we were there the same years. He, if Bo has a handle on the playbook and you feel like he can go out there and get through at least 2 of his reads competently and get in and out of checks, then he's ready. If he's not, and he's stumbling on all the verbiage and can't quite get the plays, then it's not going to do him any good to throw him out there. So again, when I say yes, he's got to be as ready as possible, and you've got to have an offensive line that can keep him from getting killed. You can ruin a young quarterback early by getting him beat up. That's when you want to sit him, Lawrence. Is when you're afraid. Like I said, you're gonna shell shock the poor kid. I think the Denver Broncos offensive line is definitely good enough. Sean Payton is definitely good enough, and Bo Nix wouldn't have been drafted where he was if you didn't feel confident that he could grasp the system well enough to learn it in 6 months and play an NFL game.
We got a comment that I want to grab here from Instagram. I wanted to try and get one tonight. So this is Jake9299. Appreciate you, big dog. Says Cecil and Mason, that's Cecil Lammey and Andrew Mason, floated that Nix should sit and start Stidham the first game because it's against Seattle in a hostile environment. If that happens, I'm off of Nix. If he doesn't start day one, there's an issue. What do you think, Scott? And then we'll dip out.
Well, we've been talking about Pat. I just did it again. Jesus. Bo Nix. I haven't done that in all year at all. I've done it twice tonight.
Happens.
We've been talking about Bo Nix being the starter pretty much since the second he was drafted. Okay, he's your day one starter. He's your day one starter. He's your day one starter. Sean Payton is a big enough of a not nice person to just start Stidham, just say, see, he wasn't going to be the starter going in.
Yeah.
Of a contrarian, just because I don't like you assuming what I'm going to do. So, but when the end of the year tolls, if he stays healthy, Bo Nix is going to have 75 to 80% of the passes thrown this year. However you want to say, when does he take the first snap? I think it's week 1, but if it's not, it's just a matter of time.
Hey, Perot, happy Memorial Day weekend to you as well, my friend. Hope you're doing well. Guys, before we dip out, make sure you're following the show's main Twitter account at the MHH Pod, the main account for Mile High Huddle at Mile High Huddle. Connect on Facebook. There's the Mile High Huddle main page. There's the podcast page. Get yourself a hat, a t-shirt, support what we do here at MHH at MHHmerch.com. Instagram at mile_high_huddle. And then, guys, you got 5 seconds. Go leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It helps us grow and reach like-minded Broncos fans, guys and gals, people out there wandering the desert who would love to be a part of this community. They just don't know it's out there. That helps big time. And then, guys, like, subscribe, make sure you're subbed. And then, hey, if you dug the content, you enjoyed the conversation tonight, share it. That's the greatest testimonial we can get on top of the 5 stars. So much love and respect. Thank you, guys. Scott, also, bro, short notice, bullpen, the Southpaw, Jay saying, man, that J9299 guy is – oh, it's that guy. Hanta, I wonder who he is. Okay, now we got the dots connected. Jay Roper. We know Jay Roper.
Yeah, he's appreciate you going in and double dipping on for the algos. Thanks, Jay.
For sure. Connect with Scott on Twitter at Scout Kennedy. You can connect with me at Chad and Jensen. And with that, gang, we'll be back in the saddle tomorrow night. Hopefully, Zach is back on his feet. We shall see. But if not, I'm sure you'll see Scott and I once again holding down the fort. But till then, Scott, appreciate you, bro. You want to sign us off? You sign us off. You did it on Thursday night.
Did I? Okay. No Broncos for breakfast in the morning. We're taking Memorial Day morning off. Nick and I will be back on Wednesday. Join the Priests tomorrow night if Zach's back. Otherwise, the lefty will be back. And I'll try not to call Bo Pat again and show my age.
Happens.
I hope everybody has an outstanding rest of your Memorial Day holiday. Thanks for being here, everybody. We'll see you next time.